Hey, this is Broadway vocal coach co-founder Chelsea Wilson, and here at BBC, we know that being a young artist or the parent of one is hard, especially looking towards the college audition process. College musical theater auditions and pre-screens feel so overwhelming, you don't even know where to start, which is why I want to ask you the question. What if you could apply to college musical theater programs without the overwhelm and be done by September 30th? Well, that's exactly what we offer inside our college prep program, BBC Aspire. Everything you need, all in one place, with expert support and guidance all along the way. If you listen to our show each week, you know that we help musical theater performers take their next step. And so for our listeners, we've put together a college musical theater audition live Q&A webinar so you can immediately feel more peace of mind and get your questions answered from experts who know. If what I'm saying is striking a chord, then get the relief that you need and take that first step. Register for our free Q&A webinar at bwayvocalcoach.com/college. And when you do, you'll immediately get our Getting Started guide as a PDF to download right away. You deserve to have the information and support to go through the college audition process without the overwhelm. Just go to bwayvocalcoach.com/college. If you're like many actors, chances are you get anxious when thinking about how to show up online. Do I need a website? What should be on it? What about social media? Will people think I'm bragging when I talk about career stuff? What are casting directors finding out about me online? We've got a simple game plan for you to follow in today's episode. We're talking all about how to create your ideal actor website and how to show up online. I'm Chelsea Wilson, a performer turned voice teacher to Broadway stars and vocal coach on Broadway productions like The Phantom of the Opera, School of Rock, and more.
And I'm Cynthia Cortman Westfall, a Broadway music director, conductor, voice coach, and tenured faculty member at one of the top musical theater programs in the country.
Here on the Broadway Vocal Coach podcast, you can expect real talk about the business, practical advice, and constant encouragement. We believe there's space for every artist in this industry. All you need is the right support. So consider us your two-woman hype team. Welcome to the Broadway Vocal Coach podcast, where we help musical theater performers get unstuck and take the next step in their careers. Thrilled to be having this conversation with you, Cynthia, because I'm actually currently in the midst of redesigning my own personal website, my studio website, my personal website, and there is a lot to consider when you are designing something like that, choosing what to include, what to say about yourself, what resources or links you want to include for people to be able to find, and how you can show up and serve an audience online. There is a lot about this, and I've certainly learned a lot over the years about showing up online, and you have as well, especially recently. You're showing up all over online. How do you feel about that?
Super anxious.
You said,
yeah, no, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I think especially for people who want to show up and yet are concerned with wanting to be humble, wanting to be sensitive, but yet also want to be excited about what they're doing and show what they do well. It's tricky.
It is totally tricky, which is why we're talking about it in today's episode. Each month inside the BBC membership, we bring in a different industry special guest for a workshop or masterclass for our members. Last year, we had the pleasure of welcoming Sarah Kleist, who is a website designer and digital creator, in addition to being an actor herself. She's the owner of Kleist Creative, and she spoke with us all about an actor's online presence, from social media to website design to what kind of content you can or should be posting. I've pulled some fantastic sound bites from that class for today's episode, and I highly encourage you to go check out Sarah's website, Sarah Kleist, KLEIST.com, for all of her resources. She's a fantastic resource if you're looking for some website design expertise. To dive right in, there are a lot of places you can show up online. The internet is a vast place, my friends. As we all know, you can show up on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can have a website. You might want to be on Actors Access. The options are endless of how to show up online. And if that makes you nervous, you are not the only one. With all of these different choices to make can come some anxiety or just some confusion about best practices when it comes to showing up online as an actor. But I'll tell you what, it's 2023. You've got to be online. You have to be online. Folks are looking for you. Casting directors are Googling your name, and you get to be in control of what they see when they do that. You can also think about showing up online as a way to reach out and network with your dream collaborators. Showing up in that space just makes you available for opportunity and possibility. And don't you want to be available for more opportunities and possibilities? You might want to think about changing your mindset around what showing up online might give you the opportunity to do. So Sarah says that showing up online is the one thing you are in control of.
It is actually like the one singular thing that I think I have full control of in this industry at all. Like, you don't get to choose whether or not you get called in for a specific audition. You don't get to choose whether or not they say yes to you. You don't get to choose like how you look, but you do have control over the story you're telling online. And so as a control freak myself, I'm like, great, love it. How can I like use this to my full advantage?
And of all the places that you can be online, the one place you should be, if you're only going to do one thing, is to show up on your own personal website. A website is the singular place on the internet that you own. It's your home on the internet. You can make it look however you want. It's not a trendy thing. It's not going anywhere. Instagram may be dead next year, but a website, your personal domain on the internet, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be around. When it comes to that humility aspect, Cynthia, that you were talking about, on your website, it's really the one place where it's socially acceptable for you to brag, and you absolutely should. If you're not going to list what you've accomplished or done or experienced on your website, then no one's ever going to know about it, and no one else is going to be singing your praises anywhere else. Yeah. Take that opportunity to share what makes you special and unique on your own personal website.
And it's really not even bragging. It's just stating the facts. But the facts
right.
might be fancy. So show those fancy facts.
Exactly right. So Sarah talked to us about what the bare minimum content for an actor's website should be. And she gives 4 points. The first is your headshot and resume, and to make those downloadable files. If a casting director is looking for you and they want to file that information away, they don't want to have to reaccess that page every time. Make sure it's an easy to download PDF of your headshot and your resume. Number 2, some sort of about you or about me section. Something personal, something interesting. This is your opportunity to write a little personal statement. That could look a lot of different ways, but it's a place and a way for you to show a little bit of your personality. Number 3, your email address. Now listen, you might have a contact form on your website. A lot of website hosting services provide that option, but I would say that including your actual email address is very important because, again, a casting director or somebody who's checking you out online might want to write that down and store that away so they don't have to go back to your homepage and fill out that form every time they want to be in contact with you.
I am so much in agreement about this email address, especially because there's a lot of other folks besides a casting director that might want to get in touch with you. I often want to get in touch with people as a music director for all kinds of various things. And it makes me a little bit bananas when I can't find an email off a website. And the last thing I often want to do is deal with someone's agent or manager when it's like, hey, I'm doing this new reading, or hey, I've got a composer in town that we're looking for a couple singers, or hey, I need a couple extra singers in the recording studio this weekend. Those are not things I need to go through your agent for. Those are quick little money makers and really fun little artistic moments. And if I can't find your email address, I honestly move on to the next. So it's really helpful. You never know who needs your email address. And there are times when people don't want to go through an agent or a manager, especially for the more fun, smaller, really creative things that you might really enjoy doing when you're not doing a bigger show.
Exactly right. So even if you are represented by a manager and agent, certainly include that information. That should also be on your resume. That's easily downloadable. But your own personal email address or an email address that you only have listed on your website, right? If you don't want to hand out the email address that you use for every single login and password for your entire life, you can quickly and easily make a new email address that's for business related stuff. The fourth thing that Sarah recommends as a bare minimum content for actors is some kind of media. So this is photos, videos, recent performance clips, self-tapes you're really proud of, high quality material that reflects your skills right now. When I look at folks' website, if I see videos or pictures on there that are like 10 years old or even 5 years old, it raises some questions for me. I'm like, well, is that how they sound now? Is that how they perform now? So as much as you can, keep this up to date with things that are really reflective of your current skills and your current interests and passions and what you're currently up to. We're going to talk a little bit more about self-tapes and how you might repurpose those as media on your website and even on social media in a little bit. But for now, keep it simple. The bare minimum on your website needs to be your headshot and resume, a little bit about you, your email address, and some media. Anything about that, Cynthia? What do you think?
That's great. And most of that is not too hard to even me, technically challenged. I am able to put those four things together.
Yes, you are. You are. Cynthia can do it. You can do it, my friends.
So you can do that on your own without having to hire someone to help you do it.
Yeah.
I think those are all really doable things.
That can all live on one page. You can just have a home page and all that information can live on one page. If you want to take it to the next level, here are some next steps of ideas of what you can include. Here's a little clip from Sarah talking about lifestyle shots and different photos and media on your website.
Lifestyle shots. Okay, so here is the thing. Lifestyle shots, I think I went on a whole rant recently where I was like, I wish that we could use lifestyle shots as headshots, because to me, a lifestyle shot tells so much more of a story than a headshot literally ever could. Like a headshot is like the most basic photo of your face, I feel like normally. And a lifestyle shot, like you're picking an outfit, you're picking a location. That is like a whole vibe. And I learned so much about the person behind the lifestyle shot. Anyway, that's just me. So this is why I think lifestyle shots are great for a website, because again, you get to tell a story with those and really show people like who you are outside or inside of the theater.
I totally agree with Sarah about this. I think something that shows a little bit more of your personality and the behind the scenes of who you are and your life and your own personal creative choices tells me so much more about you. So I love that tip. Another thing you can include on your website is a news or I'm currently up to section, or I recently completed this job at this theater, or coming up, I'm going to be appearing in this concert at this venue. Simple things that show again that you're updating this website and that you're currently active in the industry. I would also include, especially in this if we're even really post-pandemic world, where you're located. A lot of actors have left New York City or LA and are making acting careers from anywhere, all around the country, all around the world, which is fabulous. Sometimes though, like Cynthia was saying, if she's trying to find folks who are in town in New York to do a weekend reading of something or a recording session, it's helpful to see that you're currently located in Denver, Colorado. Or it's helpful to know that you are located in New York City. You might want to consider including where you're located or where you're currently based out of on your website. Another thing I would highly suggest is links to social media. If that's a place that you are public online and actively posting and engaging in, let people follow you on Instagram, on TikTok, on your YouTube channel. That's a great place for folks to get a little bit more of a personal connection with you and insight into what you're all about and who you are. Want to take it one step further? Here are some further unconventional actor website ideas. Again, for those of you who just want to go above and beyond, put even more personality on your website. You can include sections about what you're inspired by, some of your favorite things, a timeline of your career or of important life moments. You could be bold and say, here is a list of some of my dream roles. Why not? Somebody will probably ask you about that in the room one day. If you've got critic reviews or any kinds of print media that you can include that. You can also say where you've been featured in, if you've been featured in publications or on well-known social channels. and any kind of multi-hyphenate stuff. If you're also a voice teacher, you might want to include a page about that. If you're also an acting coach, if you're also a yoga instructor, include some of these other things that you do. The point being, you can make your website as simple as possible or as multidimensional as you are yourself. When it comes to some website tips and resources, you've probably heard of a plenty of platforms where you can go and make a website in a day. Things like Wix.com, Squarespace, WordPress, all of these are really affordable options if you're just getting started. And I would look up website design inspiration on Pinterest or even on Instagram, get some ideas for what some different looks and feels, and think about how your quote branding or things as simple as colors and fonts, what that communicates about you and what your vibe is. If you are looking for some actor specific templates, Sarah Kleist, who we've been referencing throughout this episode, provides and sells a ton of actor specific templates on her website, and she can also help you build a custom website. Again, you can find all of that at sarahkleist.com. Cynthia, in this class that Sarah gave to our members last year, she gave this really cool tip that I think is kind of brilliant about creating a hidden self-tape page on your website, like a private page on your site for linking to self-tapes that you're submitting. So instead of like a Vimeo link or a YouTube link that you submit for your auditions, it's actually an unlisted page on your website. So when the casting director or the music director clicks your link to watch your video, they're actually already on your website and they can see your menu. They can click to other things around your website and they're already essentially like a captive audience on your site. That again is the one place on the internet that you control how it looks and feels and the content that you've got there.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I love that hot tip.
Yeah, hot tip and a very great idea. Let's turn our focus in this conversation to talking about social media.
Ooh, you know, that's my favorite.
Yeah. How do you feel about social media, Cynthia?
I am a very reluctant social media user, but getting more comfortable. And honestly, I've, taken some of these tips myself because it is not a place I am immediately comfortable.
And I gotta say,
let's talk about it. Let me learn from this next section of the podcast.
Same for me, honestly. Up until a couple years ago, I was extremely reluctant to show up on social media in a public way. I had a private Instagram account. I had a website for my voice teaching business, but I felt extremely protective over, it wasn't even my image. It was just like information about myself. But I started doing these workshops and master classes with a lot of international students, folks who had traveled to the US and worked with me for a period of time. And I'd also traveled internationally and taught and worked with a lot of voice students in Korea, in Scotland, in Mexico City. And they wanted a way to connect with me. And so many of them were already using social media. They were on Instagram and they wanted to connect with me there. It just seemed like such a natural thing, but I was like, no, my account is private. And I was just very particular about how I showed up online. But over the past couple of years, I have changed my mindset about that, allowing myself to show up on TikTok, which is a platform I really embraced in 2020 and formed this really cool community and group of followers there. I felt really free showing up on that platform, that most of the viewers who were watching my material there, I didn't know. They were strangers to me. Whereas people who followed me on Instagram at that point, like, were still people I knew. So I felt a little uncomfortable showing up as almost my full self on Instagram, where it was just folks that I knew following. Does that make sense? It was easier to like be my full self in front of an audience of strangers than it was to a smaller community on Instagram. So that really shifted the tide for me. And I think I'm not alone in that being the case. I think folks, especially actors, I think 9 out of 10 actors would say I would rather perform to an audience of 1,000 strangers than 5 of my best friends or my family. That is so me too. That is 100% me. I'm so uncomfortable doing that. So I want to talk about social media kind of from this perspective of changing your mindset around who could you engage with, reach out to? How could you really practice showing up as your full self by showing up on social media in a way that feels good to you? The first thing I'll say here is show up on social media in a public way if you want. If you don't want to, disregard. Skip to the end of this episode. See you later. All good. Don't worry about it. But think about social media as a great place to connect with dream collaborators, to reach out to folks, to network. We talked about that in episode 13 of the podcast, to make friends and to create awareness about what you're doing. So when it comes to social media, what should you post? Sarah talked in our class about showing up more fully online, and I love what she had to say in that class.
People want to hire multi-dimensional people. I feel like there was always this like sort of rhetoric in the industry before, or maybe I was just projecting this, but like, I feel like everyone was like, I need to only be an actor. I can only ever be an actor. And like, I have to pursue this 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And if I'm not, I'm like going to fail as an actor. And I think most people like understand that everyone has a life. If you're gonna go to Central Park with your friends, like post that. Like that's cute. We love that. We love to see that you're doing other things, or if you have other hobbies, like I think that's genuinely really interesting, and again forms connections with our dream collaborators, which is like the whole point of all of this.
So Chelsea, I hear you about the social media, of its importance, of its usefulness. If someone does want to show up a little more, what would be some examples of what to post?
Excellent question. First and foremost, your life. Post about your life. Post about where you went to dinner last night. Post about the concert that you went to. Post about the things that you're doing. We want to see full, multidimensional people in the world. And when you can show up and share some real things about what you're doing and what you're up to, that's awesome. And it helps people get to know you a little bit better. You can also share and post about when you're in a show, your other hobbies and projects. You can post the gorgeous lifestyle shots that you prepared for your website. Why not? You've already prepared this material for your website. Post it on social media. If you're creating your own content, like writing and directing your own music videos or short scenes or stories, post that stuff on social media. And you can also post self-tapes. Let's talk about this, because this can get you in trouble, or it can be an awesome tool for your advantage. And Cynthia, I'm sure you've got some thoughts about this too. So many of us and so many actors are spending so much time preparing all this material for their self-tapes. They send the self-tape in. They're really proud of it. It goes into the ether, and sometimes you never hear anything back. And it can feel like a big waste of time. So think about how you might be able to repurpose some of that content in a way that's appropriate. So for example, if you are filming and taping material for existing shows, existing material, well-known musicals, if you've put If I Loved You from Carousel on tape for something, fantastic. Why not share that? Why not consider putting that on your reel, on your website, or share a clip of it on your social media? Where this gets sticky is when folks are creating self-tapes for new works and learning material for new shows, things that are in development, things that are in a workshop, things that are not yet public and are very much under construction from a creative point of view. That's not appropriate to share online in any way, shape, or form. That is material that is private. It's currently in a creative process with writers and directors, and that's not something that is appropriate to share on your website, on social media, or anything like that. That, I think, is a pretty hard and fast rule that folks should stick to.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And if ever in any doubt, just ask permission. Go to the people who wrote it, go to the people who are involved with it, ask if it's okay to post, and double check before you do. That's always the safest way.
Excellent advice. One other thing about that too, you can repost material that you shared a year ago. I guarantee you've got new followers or new eyes on your account since the last time you posted that recording of If I Loved You. Wow, it's just my favorite example all the time. We always go to If I Loved You. It must be the poster on my wall behind me. It's just like constantly in my brain. Go ahead, repost it, reshare it. Why not? You're going to have folks on there who haven't seen that material before, and it might spark a discussion or some excitement around what you're doing. I love that. When it comes to social media, and TikTok especially is a platform I really love for this, the name of the game is authenticity. TikTok is inherently theatrical. You're literally mouthing the words to audio that someone else made and acting like a fool, dancing around your bedroom. I mean, it is inherently theatrical, and it can be a really fantastic tool to just practice showing up on video, getting comfortable seeing yourself on video, and being creative. It's a way to flex your creative muscles.
So what does authenticity even mean to you? How would you define authenticity, especially on something like TikTok that is more theatrical?
I think TikTok and Instagram, the vibes are so different. Instagram still feels curated. It's a highlight reel. This is my curated grid of what I want you to see about my life and what I want you to see what I'm doing. And TikTok is just a totally different vibe. It doesn't look as fancy when you go to somebody's profile. And the thing that's really different about the TikTok algorithm versus Instagram is TikTok is showing your videos and content to strangers, to people that they think will like your stuff. And Instagram, it's mostly your followers who are seeing what you post there. So when it comes to gaining an audience, and I don't think that should or needs to be anyone's intention from getting on any of these apps, but when it comes to just meeting new people, finding like-minded people, engaging in discussions, bidding your thoughts in a video, or contributing something creative to a trending audio or whatever, TikTok is a much more natural way to do that, in my opinion. And for me personally, like, have just found more freedom on that app than I have on Instagram. Even to this day, I still am like, oh, should I post this on Instagram? It's going to live on my feed forever. Whereas I don't think twice about what I post on TikTok. It's just a mess over there. It's great. It's just whatever. And it's really timely too, you know? And that's one thing I would add here is that you can be on social media, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, without the intent to be an influencer, without the intent to be a TikTok creator. What if you thought about showing up on social media as a way to practice being creative and to share what you're into? You might meet new friends. You might connect with your dream collaborators. How might it help your self-taping in that practice of, I'm just going to show up, I'm going to take a real quick video of this, I'm going to post it, and I'm not going to second guess myself. Whereas I feel like as actors, we do a lot of that second guessing, and not that that's unnatural or you're alone in that. I think we all fall into that. So could you think about being on social media and using social media as a way to practice feeling more free, feeling more creative? I think so.
I love that. So in terms of what not to post, what are your thoughts on that?
What not to post? Yeah, here's a couple guidelines. Like we said before, any self-tapes or materials from new works that you don't have permission to share, anything currently in development, don't share it. Nope. I would also say stuff that doesn't reflect your skill set now. Again, that's about keeping your content current, especially on your website. Stuff that is reflective of what you can do at this moment and who you are and what you're interested in. Another thing I would advise folks not to post is any kind of negative content about other shows or people in the business. Even if it's not outright negative, even if it's just a little snarky or something like that, I just don't think it's worth it to be spreading negativity about other folks who are creatives in this creative process, creating new work and doing their best to like show up in this industry. I just don't think it's nice. I don't think it's nice, and I don't think you should post about that.
I see a lot of this online, actually. And I always think, especially when it's about shows or performances or new works, and someone says something snarky about someone's performance or someone's voice or the show they saw or the new work that they saw. And I always think, nobody shows up to perform. Nobody writes a show and thinks to themselves, I'm going to do kind of a mediocre, not great show. I think I'm going to write a not great show. Everybody goes into it trying to do their very, very best, putting their heart and soul into it. I just, sometimes things go over well with the public. Sometimes things go over less well. Sometimes things are hits. Sometimes they're not. But I guarantee that everybody working on it, the creative teams that are working on it, the writers, the performers have really put their heart and soul into it. And it just doesn't seem necessary to add negativity to that. If it's not your flavor, great. You don't need to post about that. You can share that personally with your friends if you feel the need to, or you can simply not recommend something to somebody. But yeah, I would be really cautious about adding that negativity to the public sphere.
The last thing I would say, what not to post, this is really more of a what might you want to remove. Take down anything that you don't want to be found, whether it's old YouTube videos, even YouTube videos that aren't on your account. Maybe reach out to those accounts where that cabaret video was posted 7 years ago after your college graduation. Like, if you don't want it up there, reach out to those accounts, see if you can get those things taken down, because anything that's up is Googleable, it's findable. Consider what you don't want to be found, simply because it's not a current reflection on who you are or the kinds of things that you can do. This also applies to tagged media on Facebook and Instagram. Go through, just see what's been recently tagged of you and see if there's anything on there that you would like to remove. That's totally within your choice and power to curate how you want to show up online. It's totally your choice. In episode 13 of the podcast, we talked about how to network and not feel icky. And I think this conversation about how to show up online is a continuation of that. So I want to give you a couple ideas of how to use showing up online to your advantage. So things like, what's in your email signature? Can you point people to something recent, a recent clip of you that you're really proud of? Just hyperlink it in your email signature. Or make sure it details all your multi-hyphenates. I'm an actor, I'm a voice teacher, I am a yoga specialist, and I'm a dog walker. Whatever it might be. Make sure that you're exchanging socials on gigs. So exchanging your Instagram handle, making sure you're following the folks that you're working with. Keep up with people that you've met in any kind of way, whether it's for a short time or for a long-standing gig. Keep up with the folks online that you've worked with. And give as much as you take. Cynthia talked a lot about this in our networking episode. Networking and reaching out is all about contributing and making well-timed asks when you actually do have something that you need or need some help with. Give as much as you take. Recommend other folks for gigs. If you see somebody post on their Instagram stories that they are looking for background singers for a studio session this weekend in New York City, and you know your friend would be perfect for it, recommend them, get them in touch. That is just contributing to a spirit of generosity and networking that will always come back in a positive way for you. Finally, if you have some kind of a social media audience, some kind of sizable presence, you might want to consider including that on your resume. It is something that folks consider, for better or for worse. That is something that folks want to know about when going through the casting process. So consider including that on there. Even if your account or your audience is for something that you might think is unrelated to your acting profession. Maybe you have 400,000 followers on TikTok for all of your cooking recipes. That's just super interesting about you. You might as well include it. That feels like something worth knowing. So consider sharing and including that kind of information on your resumes and in other important places. Any other thoughts about how to make the internet work for you, Cynthia?
No, that was great. If anything, I will be using some of these tips myself to continue to do a little more presence on the social media.
I hope some of these thoughts today were helpful for you. You can show up as simply online as you'd like to, or as multifaceted and in as many places as you'd like. You can be as creative as you'd like when it comes to showing up online and how you want to connect with others there. Everything we referenced today will be in our show notes, including how to connect with Sarah and get some of her expertise and her amazing actor templates for website design. And that's it. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and tag us on Instagram at @BWayVocalCoach. That's a great way to use the internet to your advantage, my friends. And if you are ready to take your next step, but you're not entirely sure what that should be, then take our quiz. We'll help guide you to the resource or program or your next step, the thing that's right for you. And don't forget, if you're a young artist or the parent of one looking towards the college musical theater audition process, we've got our free live Q&A webinar happening on Monday, March 6th. You can register for that at bwayvocalcoach.com/college. Thanks for listening.